Hey guys, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 in the house, bringing to you another edition of the Supergirl Season 5 review series. And today I'm going to be talking about episode 4 called In Plain Sight. And I have to say that this episode was one of the best episodes of this season so far. I really enjoyed this a lot. Good job with building up the Leviathan story arc that's going on this season. J'onn J'onzz family drama. It had a bit of everything, and I really enjoyed this episode a lot. And we also got to see a fan favourite of the show leave. I'll get to that momentarily, but this episode had bits of everything for everyone, so I really enjoyed this one a lot. So with that all said, let's get right into it. Let's talk about episode 4, In Plain Sight. At the end of episode 3, J'onn learned that he was the one who wiped Malefic's existence from the Martian collective memory. So ever since he's learned this news, he's been living in his own personal hell, he's been in a lot of emotional pain, and he's not lessened the weight of that burden by confiding in anyone about it. Not that you would bring something like that up in a conversation. So our favourite Martian has been trying to learn about why he has this psychic link with his brother, and now we know the truth. So it's been a hell of a ride for J'onn J'onzz, and I have to give mega props to David Harewood. He's one of the best actors on the show, and he never really gets enough love or credit for his portrayal as J'onn J'onzz. For me, he's the definitive J'onn J'onzz. All due respect to Phil Morris, who played J'onn J'onzz back in the Smallville days, but what I like about David Harewood's portrayal is that he adds a lot of layers to Martian Manhunter. So he's not only a badass, but he has a softer side to him. He's very caring, and he really takes the responsibility and the weight of the world on his shoulders, and we got to see that performance once again, and he done an amazing job as always. So this episode starts when we see Kelly Olsen walking down the street, looking around, looking very worried and concerned, when Malefic shows up. Turns out Kelly is really J'onn J'onzz in disguise, and he confronts Malefic, and Supergirl, along with Alex and Brainiac 5, help to try and stop him, but Malefic incepts another agent, creates a distraction, and J'onn is unable to send Malefic back to the Phantom Zone. And meanwhile, in a car on the way to Calvintown, Kelly gets flashes of what Malefic is doing. Calvintown is special to Kelly and James, as it's where they lived after their father died, so they return to the town largely in economic ruin, and a giant prison has been built in the town. So, for those of you who don't remember, also at the end of episode 3, Kelly Olsen was taken out of National City for her own protection, along with James Olsen. So this is the first time we see her officially since the end of episode 3. Alex wants a Pacific blaster brought up from the armory, one that can kill green Martians. Supergirl talks her down, and Nia calls and has info on William. It turns out that his marriage is a lie, and he's headed to Mexico City. Supergirl dashes off to protect the woman she believes is William's target, Elena Torres. Now, we've seen that William in the past has a very shady attitude, so to speak, and he rubs Supergirl / Kara Danvers up the wrong way. So we're getting to see more and learn about who William really is. So this was quite good to see what exactly William has been up to. Alex then calls Lena and asks her for her help. Hope tells Lena that they need to find the correct Q-wave frequency, and Lena has the idea to use Malefic to essentially create a shortcut for their research. So we've been seeing, over the course of a few episodes, Lena, along with Eve Tessmacher, now been upgraded to Hope. They've been working together to try and find the source of what makes people lie and do bad things. So she's essentially trying to make them into like mindless, emotionless drones, so to speak. So we're getting to see more of that in this episode again. So I really enjoyed the way they've developed Lena Luthor's character so far. It's like she keeps convincing herself that she's not the villain, she's not like Lex Luthor, but all of her methods are questionable and speak otherwise. And we got to see that again here, and I really enjoyed seeing that, and I've really enjoyed how they've developed Lena Luthor so far. It's been a very interesting ride, to say the least. Meanwhile, in Calvin Town, Kelly and James arrive there at their aunt's property and find a group of kids fleeing. It looks like they've been camping out there and doing their homework. So this looks like it's a poor part of Calvin Town, and a very run-down part, and we see like these group of kids look like they've been living there and hiding there for quite some time. Also, Supergirl arrives on the scene to help Elena, but it appears that she has died in a car crash. Kara then sees William leaving the scene. It turns out that Elena was the lead accountant for the Obsidian worldwide, and the guy William left with is none other than Intergang. Very interesting. Meanwhile, we see Kelly and James encounter one of the kids from the house at the store, and James invites him to come and eat with them, as it's clear there's something going on with these kids' lives. Turns out that he's on his own. His mum was put in prison for 10 years for stealing an inexpensive space heater, and he reveals that there's corruption in the town for which the system colludes to put people in prison for lengthy sentences, as the prison is for profit establishment. Meanwhile, in Mexico, Supergirl goes to Elena's apartment to try and find out why William wanted her dead. She finds a string of numbers before being interrupted by someone who comes and attacks her, believing to be Elena Torres. Supergirl then arrives to confront her. At the DEO, Alex decides to ready the weapon anyway, and Malefic intercepts another agent, and then Alex. Oh boy. Brainiac 5 struggles to work on the Phantom Zone projector, and eventually Lena Luthor steps in and convinces him to ask for her help. When he walks away, she messes with the device herself. What's she up to? Most interesting. James then goes to the Calvin Town paper to chat with his mentor, who is now a publisher. Nelson is unwilling to address the prison situation with the power of the press because he believes it will put his paper out of business, not to mention that it would put all of his employees out of the job. Meanwhile, at the DEO, Alex, being controlled by Malefic, gets Jean to admit his secret about wiping his and his father's memories. Distraught, Jean confesses to Supergirl as well and figures out that Malefic incepted Alex. Now this was a really cool scene because for a moment it really threw me off, because I thought, why was Alex being so horrible to Jean? But we now learned that she was being controlled by Jean's own brother. So this was a really cool scene, and David Harewood really knocked this scene out of the park. He broke down in tears and admitted how distraught he was at doing what he had to do, and it was a really powerful scene. And I have to say, this episode, all due respect to everybody else, this episode really belonged to David Harewood, and he delivered a fantastic performance in this episode once again. Jean and Supergirl both learn that Malefic controlled Alex, and they go to the planetarium to confront him. Malefic attacks Jean with the weapon through Alex, but Jean talks about his regrets and admits that he was wrong for wiping his and his father's memories. It briefly stops Malefic long enough for Jean to save Alex. Malefic then attacks, but Supergirl shows up, and despite Malefic incepting the entire audience, with the help of James and Kelly Olsen, they are able to stop him, leading to Jean sending Malefic back to the Phantom Zone. We also finally learn that William has been an undercover reporter for 2 years, and he's been trying to uncover a criminal conspiracy bigger than Al Capone. Okay, but little does he realise that this is the work of the Leviathan, although that is never actually addressed. Kara agrees to help William get to the bottom of this strange conspiracy, and using all her resources at her disposal. What I like about Supergirl, especially the character, just like Superman, she always sees the good in people and is willing to help no matter what. So it's really cool that we got to see that again here. Also, Neo and Brainiac 5 finally work things out, and James reveals to everyone that he's moving to Calvin Town to buy the paper there and make a change. It's a real shame really that Jimmy is leaving, because I really liked him. I didn't initially like him at first, not because of the character but because of the casting was a bit bizarre, but I really got to like him, especially when he became Guardian, and he slowly became one of my favourite characters. And it is a real shame that he's leaving, but at the same time it's kind of good in a way that they've kind of left the door open so he could come back at some point in the show. So I kind of feel that James Olsen himself hasn't had a lot to do on this show, so I think having him leave for a little while and having him come back all fresh and rejuvenated might be a good thing. So we'll have to see how this plays out, but I'm going to miss him. He's a really good character, and I hope he does come back, and I hope Win comes back as well, because I really like those characters a lot. They're really awesome guys. So it looks like Kara has finally learned that William is actually a good guy, so we'll see more of that as the show progresses. And the last shot we see, it turns out that Malefic isn't in the Phantom Zone. Lena has had him sent to her lab instead. So it looks like she's up to something, and we'll have to see what she's going to do with Malefic. But that's pretty much how this episode ends. But overall, I really enjoyed this a lot. It was probably one of the best episodes of this season. So hopefully we'll get to see more good episodes like this. So with that all said, I'm going to leave this here for you guys. What did you think of episode 4? Did you enjoy it? Was there anything you didn't like? Was there anything you did like? What's your reaction to James Olsen leaving the show? You know what to do. Leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see you all next time, when I'll be talking about episode 5. So till then, take care everybody.